Welcome to the Writing Corner. Today I want to talk a little bit about my upcoming book, The Undying Dragon, and I really want to share a little bit of the writing process behind this. So the first thing I want to talk about is the outlining. I am a big time planner, so they talk about like there's planners and then there's like discovery writers slash pantsers, and I'm much more on the planner side. I outlined pretty heavily. So each of the books I've created an outline and I have essentially like Flint, here's what happened in his chapter, and then next character D'Artagnan, here's what his chapter is about, right? So I use a program called Scrivener that helps with that, and I just plug all those things in. So you make chapters, right? So say I make 38 chapters, which is book, actually this ended up being 40, I think. So I make the 40 chapters, right? And then the first little box that I have for chapter 1, I type in a little quick little blurb of what's happening in that one, kind of like point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe more if there's more, right? So I give all the little details in that one. Then I go to the next character and I do that for each character. So fast forward to the actual writing of the book, and what I do is I do one character and I do their chapters kind of out of order from beginning to end. So the way it's written is kind of a Song of Ice and Fire style, where it's like chapter 1 is this character, chapter 2 is a different character, chapter 3 is another character, then chapter 4 is a different character. There are a couple times where I do like chapter 1 and 2 is the same character, but it's not super common, but there are a couple of instances where you'll see like 2 Micah chapters or 2 other character chapters, right? So when I'm doing those, I write like right now I'm in book 4, like I mentioned in the last video. I'm doing Dexter's chapters first because Dexter gives us a lot of insight into what's going on behind the scenes, and kind of like he gets a interesting perspective of what's going on. So because of where he is in the world, right? So he gets to let us see those things. So I'm doing his chapters first. So I'm doing chapter like 2, I think is his, and then chapter 9 is another Dexter chapter, and then chapter I think like 16 or 17 is another Dexter chapter, and then I go on to chapter like 20 something right now I think I'm on, and that's another Dexter chapter, right? So I do all those characters that way. The only time I stop doing that is if there is a point where I'm like, okay, this character and this character meet at this point, so I want to catch up and make sure that those line up correctly. So there are a couple times where I've paused and said, okay, like let's fix those things and make sure they line up right so that it's not like wonky in the timeline. So for the most part, I do that. There are the occasional times where it's like I'm kind of stuck on a character and I'm like, I know this needs to happen, but I'm not sure yet, so I kind of bracket it and I just put a little bracket and say like, they figure out how to defeat this dragon, or they have to get to this point, right? And then I'll come back to it later. So a couple times I'll do that and I'll bracket it and I'll be like, come back later. And so I just search brackets and then I can find it and fix all the little brackets. Sometimes it's something as simple as like include witty retort here, or something as big as they get from point A to point B and I don't know how yet, right? So it might be a bigger thing I need to fix, plot hole kind of thing, right? So that's kind of the overarching way I kind of write each of the books, so that for me personally that works really well. If you're working on a fantasy book, I recommend doing it that way, but you know, it might work better for you to write it chronologically, chapters 1 through whatever. When I was working on The Gifted World, that's really how I did it. I did chapter 1 through the end. I sometimes skipped chapters if I was like feeling in a rut. Let's say I was like working on a chapter that was all dialogue and a lot of intrigue and I was like kind of feeling drained from it. I might jump to a chapter that was like all combat because I was like, this is fun, this is exciting, I need a little pick me up and this will help. So sometimes I would do that, but for the most part it was really chronological. But for this book series, doing it in more of a character linear way I guess makes more sense for me. So that's the way I've been doing it for the books in A Paladin's Prayer, book 1, The Undying Dragon.